A few weeks ago, I attended a local science fair and I ended up winning first place in my category. I'm sure people know that I ended up winning the award for chemistry, but what most people don't see is the steps that I took to get there. So this is how it all started. Towards the end of my freshman year in high school, there was this orientation that the entire freshman grade was invited to, and the science research teachers introduced us to this program in our school called the Authentic Science Research Program. Essentially, it was a 3-year program that started in the beginning of sophomore year all the way to your senior year, and you could study any topic that you wanted to, writing papers about it, and end up doing lots of readings and papers, research about it, and then ultimately going to the science fairs and competing against others in your category. I remember sitting in that auditorium thinking to myself if I should apply to this program or not. And what kind of made me rethink is the fact that the application process was just so long. We had to write two essays, one on ourselves and one on how we showed scientific knowledge, and as well as making a PowerPoint to introduce ourselves, and also a long list of summer assignments that we had to do if we wanted to be considered for this course. So I ended up taking on the challenge and I applied to be in this program and I ended up being accepted. Now, fast forward to the beginning of the school year, and I was at my first day of science research. And me and three other freshmen were sitting in a classroom with other juniors and seniors who had already had established projects within their own field. And for me, it felt like total imposter syndrome. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. But I thought to myself, like, I put in a lot of work, like, I can't waste the efforts that I put in to get myself into this program in the first place, and I just decided to give it a shot and try my best. So I started reading lots of papers on different fields such as, like, medicine and health, neuroscience, chemistry, engineering, and I ended up choosing chemistry. And this was because when I was reading through those articles, I felt like some of them I was so bored by it, I just couldn't even finish reading the articles themselves, let alone like actually take notes on them. But when it was on chemistry and food science specifically, I felt like I just truly wanted to know more about it. I was intrigued by the topic. And while I was reading the literature in chemistry, I realized that there was this problem specifically in chocolate and in like cocoa products where a lot of heavy metals like lead and cadmium, which are toxic to the human body, can actually accumulate during the growing or the post-harvest processes. And I just wanted to find a way to mitigate and reduce the effects of lead getting into chocolate products and therefore benefit public health as a whole. So once I had my project identified, I began to read papers on the specific methods that are currently being used in the chocolate manufacturing industries to reduce lead and other heavy metals. And this process was along with my mentor search because ultimately, if I want to submit to more recognized science fairs, I would need to have my own independent study and I would need to have a mentor to help me during that process. And just sophomore year assignments as well, a lot of essays, a lot of papers that needed to be written, including a 40-page review guide, which I ended up finishing. It was probably one of the hardest assignments I'd ever done in my 10 years of school. And after reading all of those papers and doing all those assignments, it was probably around 2 to 3 months before the day of the science fair. And I realized I wanted to do more than just reflect on what I learned from this topic in this field, but I wanted to make a new contribution to it. And I came up with this method that has a stronger potential to be actually used in a cocoa industry facility. And that ended up being what I presented at the science fair. So the science fair started around noon, and the judging process would take around 3 hours because you never know when your judge is going to come. So I was just ready to present at all times. Now, After those 3 hours, we had an hour of public viewing, which parents can come in to just see everyone's posters. And after that came the award ceremony. So I actually hated the award ceremony, and the reason why is because of how they announced the order of the awards. So first they announced all the categories that all the people who got third place in every single category. And then they would repeat that process for everyone who got second place in every single category. And then it would be first place. So I was sitting with all these other students in my science research program, and when my name wasn't called for third place in chemistry and second place, I had this really strong feeling inside me, and I was just mentally preparing myself that I didn't win an award today. And while I felt disappointed on the inside, I was fine with it because I knew that there would be more opportunities in the future. So when the speaker said my name for first place in chemistry, I was just feeling a mix of emotions. I felt happy, but also just super overwhelmed at the same time. I truly didn't expect it to happen. And while I was walking across that stage, it just was a really, really good feeling that once it's over, you can't really replicate it again. But if I learned anything out of winning first place and this experience overall, is that the project itself may not be the differentiator between who wins and who doesn't. It's the level of execution that does. Because if you have a well executed research project that contributes new ideas, has data that supports it, and it has a compelling story and a compelling why, then your judges are much more able to connect with it and they're able to understand where you're coming from. I remember that day, there was just this one phrase that kept repeating back and forth in my mind. And the phrase was, I had no idea this project would become what it is today. Because now thinking back to my freshman year, when I was first sitting in the auditorium listening to the science research teachers speak, and just my first day in the science research class itself, feeling like an imposter, it just feels so surreal to me, just because I never expected to actually get this far. What started as a curiosity for me over time grew to become an obsession into improving this part of science. And it was a story that I was able to convey to the judges and ultimately present to them the work that I've done over this past year. Prior to all of this, I felt that the most valuable part of this process would be the part where I walk across the stage and I get a first place award and I just celebrate my achievements. But after winning and experiencing that sense of accomplishment, I realized that I realized that winning isn't actually the most valuable part of the experience. It's ultimately the process and the steps that you took to get you there, because winning is just the result of all the work that you had done. And so the most important thing is to focus on the process, because once you focus on the journey and the journey itself, then the rewards will come to you.